I feel like I should warn so nobody feels like I sort of got bored and left. I am almost certainly going to need to skip out during the second of tonight's 3 readers and come back, I hope, before the second reader is over, but definitely in time for the third, just because of how this interacts with family dinner time.
Sounds good.
First things first.
Yeah.
So Larissa, do you want to take it away?
It's 4:58. It's not time yet. It's not time. We'll start exactly at 5. But
well, Facebook Live.
But I want everybody to start. I want everybody to start thinking about our question for the evening, which who are your influences? Let's think.
What are your influences?
Who are your influences? Mark,
Christopher.
who are your influences? The names, Nabol.
Sharon Olds.
Well,
Oh, I love Sharon Olds.
we can get back to it. We can get back to Sharon Olds later.
What? I'm sorry.
Cheers.
So we're 1 minute away. I think you can go, Larissa.
Okay, you think we can start? Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to LIT BALM, your literary anodyne, your literary relief, your balm in Gilead. Here we are. We have an amazing reading for you tonight. We have Donald Revell, we have David Blair, and we have Joseph Lease, who it turns out I have read with in 1978. Well, so that, and we have a wonderful reading coming up, and first you will hear from us, me, Mark, and Jonathan. Then we're going to have our feature section, and Mark's going to be introducing our readers tonight. Then we have a powerful open mic. We have 3 powerful open micers, and that will be the way we will do the show tonight. Okay, so here we are. Let us start. Mark, would you like to start us off?
Sure.
Okay, Mark is going to be accompanied tonight by Manuel Santos, who is originally from Guatemala. Hi, Manuel. He's originally, hola, ¿qué tal? He's originally from Guatemala. He has 4 albums, but he's now in the Boston area, and he is looking for musicians to jam with. So if you want to jam with Manuel, chat us up, let us know. And Mark, how about gracing us with a poem?
Of course. Drawing on lives past. In these luminous spaces where valley meets the sea, you wait for a friend, and the morning's pale light swathes the mountain with thoughtful language. Yes, it's too early still. What's visible is not awake. What's awake is not yet visible. What's audible is running away with itself upwards. The stars still present, winking into silence, begin their dream of bone and flesh, of incandescent storms, of creative thought, an endless text, leaping from one planet to another. Flowers and trees and fossils to be, a power of such beauty above and below, in the pitch beyond death, where worlds are repainted again and over in shadows, where a curious child is hypnotized by a future unknown, and then the dream subsides and walks into itself 4,000 million times, and the sky flows into the room on the edges of space, dreaming out of sight, or in the light for other eyes, high upon the crest, and judges nothing, and gives everything to oxygen, to heartbeats, to prayer.
Well done. Thank you. Thank you, Mark. The spaces, the beautiful spaces that you bring and places that you bring to us. Like curious children, we listen and we love it. Let me tell you something about Mark Vincennes. He has published 14 books of poetry, including more recently Leaning into the Infinite from Dos Madres, The Syndicate of Water and Light, Station Hill Press, and Here Comes the Night Dust, which is from Salmon Poetry. Vincennes is also a prolific translator, that's God's own truth, and has published 10 books of translations, most recently Unexpected Development from White Pine Press by award-winning Swiss poet and novelist Klaus Mertz, and which was a finalist for the 2016 Cliff Becker Book Prize in Translation. His work has received fellowships and grants from the Swiss Arts Council, the Literary Colloquium Berlin, the National Endowment for the Arts, and the Witter-Binner Foundation for Poetry. So listen, Mr. Vincennes, your work is peppered with literary figures and animate literary life. Who are your influences that create all this?
Oh, very varied. I would say probably it started with W.B. Yeats and E.E. Cummings, but then led me along the long path toward Eastern Europe. I think as far as contemporary poets are concerned, the Polish and the Czechs are probably my biggest influences.
Polish and the Czechs. This is why I always call you Vincennes instead of Vincennes, because of that Czech influence. Thank you so much, Mark. All right, I'm going to ask Jonathan Penton. Let me tell you something about our co-host and co-founder, Jonathan Penton, who founded unlikelystories.org in 1998, still going strong, getting stronger all the time. Since then, he has lent editorial and management assistance to a number of literary and artistic ventures, such as Mad Hat Inc. and Big Bridge. He has organized literary performances and performed himself in places like Arkansas, California, Chihuahua, Colorado, Florida, Georgia, Illinois, Louisiana, Massachusetts, New Mexico, New York, North Carolina, Ohio, Oregon, Texas, and Washington State and D.C. His poetry books are The Last Chap, Virgin Press, Blood and Salsa, and Painting Rust from Unlikely Books, Prosthetic Gods, New Sins Press, and Standards of Sedity, Lit Fest Press, and he has a free chapbook you can download from Argotist eBooks. It's called Backstories. The lovely and talented Jonathan Penton, are you reading something of your own tonight, or are you acting as editor?
I'm going to read something we published at unlikelystories.org.
So you're doing an editor thing tonight?
I am, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is something we published at unlikelystories.org. It's by Paul Edward Costa, and it's called Criminological. Eventually, the main reason people turn to crime as a way of life won't be financial opportunity, for the most part, the anxious thrill of evading capture, or the freedom in living past the rules of normal society. The main thing that'll make people commit to criminal groups will be a longing for the privacy and bonding only available while working in secret, the way that lifestyle forces every interaction under the radar into the realm of in-person meetings, face-to-face, in parks, parking lots, or the droning noise of a laundromat. Like mafia moves with a deeper sense of community than what's found in legally omniscient telecommunications that are as traceable as they are accessible, unlimited, though rooted in cold distance, and with an immaterial quality that's freeing and formless in equal measure. That's Paul Edward Costa.
Okay, thank you so very much, Jonathan. All right, even though perhaps you can tell me who your influences are as both poet and editor today.
I think I'll stick to poet. I cut my teeth on Anne Sexton, and I've learned from so many living authors. I read a lot of Marina Tsvetaeva in translation, but as far as living authors, I mean, certainly I learned from the both of you. Let's see, I've learned from my peers, like I've learned from my friends Anne Macmillan and Michelle Greenblatt. And yeah, I mean, it's I hope everything I read influences me in some way. Almost everything I read, I hope influences me in some way.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, dear Jonathan. Thank you so very much. And okay, I will like to read a poem, which is not exactly a poem, and it's not a prose poem, and it's a list. And my influences are Pushkin, Joyce, and Nabokov, and Dorothy Parker, and Jack London, and Mark Twain, and Tolstoy. And those are the ones I would have to take with me on a desert island. So, and if you want to know about me, please look at larissashmilo.com or ask me. I am very interactive. And you can ask me, and I'll tell you all about myself. I'll happily talk about myself to you. Okay, and I'm going to read this poem, which is a list actually, and it's called A List of Words Never to Be Used in Poems. Soul, being, essence, fire, dream, auburn, scent, inhumanity, starry, ripe, free, heaven, transcend, memory, butterfly, chrysalis, please, mad, ecology, teach, tear, lachrymose, cry, frown, smile, love, thought, potential, season, poetry, verse, transubstantiate, transform, ascend, breathe, breath, usurp, sing, shudder, genius, antihero, thrush, lark, birdsong, exaltation, maid, woman, man, men, attempt, right, am, word, tresses, thrill, form. Character, said, desire, longing, elm, oak, tree, flame, yearn, burn, consume, new human, bow, warrior, want, page, blank. And so far, you all agree. Well then, understanding, unique, deluge, Dhaka, Mankay, mensch, wheelbarrow, manifest, palimpsest, avatar, sight, seer, samovar, light, ingredient, save, Oprah, Jimmy, nothing but, yet, the, loneliness, melange, sea, lighthouse, tower, healing, light, use, underscore, trial, Kafka, yes, shop, radiant, garden, lore, your, music, recollection, last, addiction, evolution, first over in DNA, Darwinian, Medicare, pharmacology, software, star, hardwired, stellar, bang, relate, relationship, query, queer, think, survivor, mind, pain, sorrow, tragedy, woe, enter, laughing, mope, still with me? How about life, live, living, hope, horror, help, one, singularity, Buddha, art, bomb, arms, lines, marital, Broadway show, tell, ask, mission, missive, missile, realm, wonder, wander, know, knowledge, reify, epistemological, portent, magic, magical, many, omnipotent, avuncular, very, theme, adjective, parse, none, father, mother, brother, we, our, us, I, omnibus, rarity, time, past, future, date, number, year, one, abstract, narrative, native, experiment, fusion, phrase, quote, cafe, random, insight, learned, spirit, well, good, yes, thanks, fine, thanks, good, yeah, you? Thank you. All right. And that is a list that you absolutely should ignore completely when you write your poems. Or you should try writing a poem with all of those words, which a friend of mine actually did, Audrey Roth. So I thank her for that. All right. Now we have come to the feature portion of our show, we have the wonderful readers, Donald Revell, Joseph Lease, and Donald Blair, and
David Blair.
and David, I'm sorry, I'm David Blair. I know David's name. I'm sorry, I misspeak. But, and the lovely and talented David Blair. And I'm turning it over to Mark, who will introduce our readers and question them.
Yeah, I will not question you very intensely, but I'll also kindly let you do your readings first. So we'll start with Joseph. Joseph is a critically acclaimed books include The Body Ghost, which is from Coffee House Press, as are all these others, Testify and Broken World. Joseph's poems, Broken World for James Asselty and Send My Roots Rain, were anthologized in postmodern American poetry. His poem Broken World was anthologized also in Best American Poetry with Robert Creeley as guest editor. Marjorie Perloff has written, the poems in Joseph Lease's Broken World are as cool as they are passionate, as soft-spoken as they are indignant, and as fiercely romantic as they are formally contained. Lease has complete command of his poetic materials. His poems are spellbinding in their terse and ironic authority. Yes, the reader feels when he has finished. This is how it was and how it is, an exquisite collection. Please, Joseph, grace us with your poems.
You have to unmute yourself, Joseph.
Thank you. That would be perfect. So Mahler man, if I just did the whole reading with the mute on. Be mute for me, contemplative violin. All right, here we go. The first poem I'm going to read tonight is, it's the first poem in my book, The Body Ghost, and it's called Ritual. The light that's burning every second now. Say moon, say ink, say stay in love. And eyes are masks and masks are eyes. Say moon, say ink, say stay in love. Once more I smell the dew and rain, the light that's burning everything. The elegies are taking off their clothes. Say moon, say ink, say stay in love. And some guy screams on Christmas Eve, his eyes like rain, his face like ice, and weave a circle round him thrice. We drink to death, we smear the sky, soft wind, the soul, beneath the soul, beneath the soul. He fell apart, he rained, he flew, he sang, and some guy screams on Christmas Eve. We drink to death, we smear the dark, blue wind, his stain of faded stormlight in my mouth. And in The Body Ghost, there are 3 poems called The Body Ghost, and I'm just going to read one of the 3. The Body Ghost. Property is death. They had a body crammed in a mailbox, and it was just a blue suit with bones sticking out, and fathers lost in blowing snow, and mothers drift in blowing leaves, and all the lies in any town. Work was my salvation, he said. Work was always my salvation. Branches, you, joy can scream. Ice in the river, the desire to be normal is healthy. No, it isn't. Can you imagine the death of the wind? Can you remember the ghost of that voice? Your kisses, your sky, your darkness, your sky. Lavender sky, sky like whiskey, the way we live in bodies. Lavender sky, sky like whiskey, and to your scattered bodies go. Your dream inside your face, your night inside your morning. I'll try to glint like birds behind the rain. And the next poem, of course, needs no explanation at all. It's called Rent is Theft. Rent is theft. Rent is theft. This sky is your sky. This sky is my sky. Dear God, let there be gas, let there be cash, and soft voices. Rent is theft. Hide me among the graves, the city, the wind, the banks. You just want to die. I mean, capitalism just wants to kill you. I mean, you just want and you just want. Rent is theft. We made the sky of drones to eat your voice. The sky is money. Privatize the sky. Your ocean dies and Google buys the sun inside your name. Rent is theft. They had a body crammed in a mailbox and it was just a blue suit with bones sticking out. Rent is theft. You didn't, you did. Just keep shopping. Eyes was I, dawn breaking, earth breathing. Just say missiles, just say drones. Frack, baby, frack. My eyes are made of cash and going broke. Rent is theft. We never drove the blue car through the stars. We always drove the blue car through the stars. We never guessed the dream we never guessed. We always guessed the dream we always guessed. Today we fight like gods. Today we fight for gods. How much is that ahi in the window? Here you are, here we are, no mercy, no future, lots and lots of turkey sausage. Death tangles, death shakes, death breakfast served all night. Death tangles, death shakes, death flavored ice cream, death berry gum. Rent is theft. So run around like daydreams, tear up maps. Democracy is anybody's eyes. Feel like you might have killed someone. Rent is theft. You didn't, you did. Just keep shopping and promise me the rich can't sleep. And promise me the rich can't sleep. Rent is theft. Please, please, please be ironic. We left our freedom in American mouths. We broke our freedom in American words. You run around like daydreams, tear up maps. Democracy is anybody's eyes. Rent is theft. We left our freedom in American mouths. We broke our freedom in American words. Tell me, will I spark in this light, expensive light? Did you pray? Did you beg for days like these? Rent is theft. Wake up. You're not the truth. And I might have killed someone. You didn't, you did. Eyes was I, rent is theft. Just keep shopping. I could have been 100 years of war. I could have been 100 years of peace. Frack, baby, frack. My eyes are made of cash and going broke. The next poem I'm going to read is Broken World for James Sotley. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about James Sotley before I read the poem. And then I'll read the poem. Sorry, just taking me a second to scroll the pages. And when I met James Sotley in 1991, he was completing his novel, Hijira. By the spring of 1992, when he graduated from Brown with his MFA, James had grown increasingly ill and was living at home with his parents. In 1993, he died in Boston of an AIDS-related illness. In an interview, Edmund White, with whom James worked closely at Brown, called Hijira a remarkable novel. As long as we live, White said, we'll remember that book. I wrote this poem to honor James and his book and to mourn all the words and worlds that were lost when we lost him. He was one of the smartest, toughest, most gifted people I knew then or have known since. He died on the morning of his 31st birthday, March 25th, 1993. His novel remains unpublished. Broken World for James Sotley. Faith in rain, brightness falls. Blank as glass, brightness falls, until he can't bend light anymore. Won't be stronger, won't be water, won't be dancing or floating berries, won't be a year, won't be a song, won't be taller, won't be accounted a flame, won't be a boy, won't be any relation to the famous rebel. You are with me and I shatter everyone who hates you. Arrows on water, you are with me, rain on snow, and I shatter everyone who hates you. To be a man, to be, to try, I hate the word man. I'm not crazy about the word husband or the word father either. To try to heal the night or day. I'm busy selling fighters and bombers. The NASDAQ moves in my face. I'm wired to my greasy self-portrait. Every day in every way, America equals ghost. The wrong side of history. Flat matted yellow weeds. Who could believe God chose me? Flat matted yellow weeds. God chose? You were dying that spring. Reading at some college, I saw ROTC boys in fatigues. The talkiness of winter unwraps me now. In each room, someone is fingering her or his soul. The talkiness of winter unwraps me now. The garden made unknowing by the snow, erased by snow, erased by snow. 2 blocks from campus, a boy, maybe 10 or 11, yelled at a junior high school girl, "Hoe bag, incest baby, spread your legs. It's all naked out here. Nothing is here. It's all one big strip mall. We have a Ponderosa." Faith and rain, brightness falls. Blank as glass, brightness falls. Won't be the magic lantern or dancer. Won't be, despite the fullness of time, the other 3 magic ones. Won't be a year, won't be a song. Won't be a beginning, won't be forward, won't be on the way. Won't be a dreary prison, won't be the month of May. Won't be merry, won't be the sea road. Won't be stronger, won't be younger, won't be pink, won't be opening from under. The word of God, the word of God in a plastic bag. I couldn't hear your voice. You are with me and I shatter everyone who hates you. Arrows on water, you are with me, rain on snow, and I shatter everyone who hates you. Faith and rain, brightness falls. Blank as glass, brightness falls.
Thank you so much, Joseph.
So I was going to read a couple of new poems, if that's okay.
Yes, of course.
I don't know where I am in time. I thought I had another 3 minutes, 4 minutes.
You do.
Okay. I just paused for a second there. Can't pause. Meditation 33. Empire equals fitness and guns and used books. If the world is state terror, he forgot joy dripping in his skull. Half the world's vertebrates died. Magnolias, walls of metal vaporizing flame. Ghost dads drunk like gold coins. We raise the little psyches in the trash. Pray, goodbye soul, beneath my soul, beneath my soul. America, my parasite, my seizure, breaking word and world. We raise the little psyches in the trash. And this next one is a poem for my mother. She died just about 2 years ago. And she was my first poetry teacher. And she wrote poems about nature, but not, I don't know. She was like a, she was like a tougher, more Russian Jewish Jean Valentine. And so I wrote a poem that's an elegy for her, but is also about biosphere collapse. It's called Falling. Falling. Birds on fire, fire tsunami, birds on fire. Shed your skin, America's horror theme park. Soul of bullets, soul of cash, I forgot to see the end of the world. She tried to be joy. Falling. Psyche equals birds on fire. Fire clouds, we killed the animals. Fire clouds, extinction. Bless anyone, bless anyone. Falling. She was calling for her father, and her father was collapsing. She was calling for her mother, and her mother was collapsing. She was listening to nothing. Falling. We touched the gone voice bent in half. And mom is green and she is dead. She is where, oh where, oh where. She was the search for God, for love, the summer wind, the starry night. And the last poem that I will read this afternoon is called Now What? Wanted everything, these burning psyches, burning open sores. Goodbye fantasies, goodbye winter road. I need a voice to tell me I'm alive. This is the way the world ends. Just tear it up and throw it in the fire. Just tear it up and throw it in the truth. I can hear, but I can't hear. I can see, but I can't see. We were gone, drunk and wild, screaming for money and God, screaming. Everything's corpse light, wall of metal, vaporizing flame. Can you feel more? Can you please feel more? Corpse light. Life was mine, life is mine. They burn people up, pieces of trash, pieces of wind. We had so many fantasies, something dead, I am the ghost of I, etc. I was a fool, I had a plan, and water was my dirty name. I'm writing inside death, I'm in the room. Thank you.
A million thank yous, Joseph. Stunning work, as always. So, as far as your influences are concerned, anything to release? Any inside knowledge?
Well, you know, I started reading poetry obsessively when I was about 16, maybe 15, and I'm 59 and a half now. So, I mean, in a certain way, I once heard a novelist, I'm not going to say his name, but I once heard a novelist ask who your influences are, and he goes, there isn't a writer you could name who I haven't read and then thought, I could never do that. I could never, ever do that. And then I could do that so much better. And then I must do that. I mean, anyway, so, well, Donald Revell and David Blair, obviously, are two names. No,
especially David Blair.
They're both longtime friends / mentors and dear, wonderful poets who inspire me. My partner, Donna de la Perriere, is a great poet. You should read her book, Works of Love and Terror, and she teaches me all the time. You know, my mentor for a long time was Robert Creeley, and he remains a great influence. Jean Valentine, who I mentioned, is a great influence. Laura Mullen is a great influence. Oh God, this is like when Hilary Swank forgot Chad Lowe. I'm like, who is the one I was going to mention?
What about going back further, like, you know, turn of the last century?
Oh, for God's sake! I mean, Rimbaud was the first poet for me in every way. You know, but because of my mother came through J.V. Cunningham and the Ivor Winters canon. So I was reading Rimbaud and Lorca and Stein and Artaud, and I was also reading, you know, Ben Jonson and George Herbert and Walter Raleigh and Thomas Nash, you know, Brightness Falls from the Air, and, you know, and all those, you know, so Donne became sort of the great bridge between the Baroque and Surrealism. I could just go on and on and on. I mean, there was the time I wrote all the notes.
I'm guessing you like the Frenchies as well, right?
Sorry?
You like the Frenchies as well, right?
Well, Rimbaud became, and I teach Surrealism where I teach at California College of the Arts. Right. So Aimé Césaire is very important to me. I also teach Leonora Carrington. I mean, we haven't even talked about fiction, but, you know, am I a Tolstoy person or a Turgenev person or a Dostoevsky person? All of the above. So look, you know, that's the best I can do right now. David Shapiro, that's who I almost left out, like Hilary Swank left out Chad Lowe. David Shapiro was my first poetry teacher. I mean, my mother was my first poetry teacher, but David Shapiro was my first poetry teacher when I went away from home. And if you don't know his poetry, read it. It's so weird and beautiful and learned and musical, and just not like anything else.
Interesting. My hero at that time was Reynolds Price, because I studied at Duke University, who was kind of a little bit of a traditionalist, but still had, you know, an eye on the stars, so to speak. Thanks so much, Joseph. Really appreciate that. That was a fantastic reading.
Thank you.
And let us move to our next human being, Mr. Donnell Ravel, who is the author of 15 collections of poetry, most recently The English Boat and Draught Adapted Vine, both from Alice James books. Revell has also published 6 volumes of translation from the French, including Apollinaire's Alcool, Rimbaud's A Season in Hell, Lefort's Last Verses, and Verlaine's Songs Without Words. His critical writings have been collected as Sudden Eden Essays, Essay, A Critical Memoir, The Art of Attention, and Invisible Green Selected Prose. Donald is the winner of the PEN USA Translation Award and 2-time winner of the PEN USA Award for Poetry. He's also won the Academy of American Poets Leonard Marshall Prize and is a former fellow of the Ingram Merrill and Guggenheim Foundation. Additionally, he has been awarded twice fellowships from the National Endowment of the Arts. He previously taught at the universities of Alabama, Denver, Iowa, Missouri, Tennessee, Utah. Donald is currently a professor of English at UNLV and faculty affiliate of the Black Mountain Institute. Welcome, Donald, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you. Thank you, Joseph. I told you we've been planting trees to maintain a margin of sanity. So here we go with this one. Birds small enough to nest in our young cypress are physicians to us. They burst from the tree exactly where the mind ends and the eye sees. Another world, the equal of this one, though only a small boy, naked in the sun. Glad day I was born, sparrow-hatted old New York. And the physician who brought me drowned under sail next day in a calm sea. There are birds small enough to live forever, where the mind ends, and where my love and I once planted a cypress, which is God to us.
Thank you, Donald.
This next one is called Can't Stand It. If you've ever taken children to a playground, you'll remember that bizarre, rusty, squeaky noise the swings make early in the morning. And I've taken a lot of my children to that squeaky swing set over the years. It begins there. I hear the elephant music of the playground's rusted swings, and up higher, then down again. Happy children take the sound. No snakes can read. Walking across the ocean, walking on flowers nowhere to be seen, I walk on gold. So says Hummingbird. So said the fountain as it filled with sand one day when I wasn't looking and my son grew old. Music dies with the man. It dies surely like a finger. We have no poetry by William Blake. Not a single note of Bach survives. Stop kidding yourself. Time is no river. It is a shard of glass, cutting. My Buddha in the wheelbarrow holds up a broken bottle while he's wheeled away. A diamond is a diamond. A cloud is a cloud that looks like one. In the afterlife, I take my children to a playground. Enormous birds perch safely on nothing. The swings make no sound. I realized I just broke two of the rules in that one poem. I used the word Buddha and wheelbarrow. So I must apologize. I don't know what I could have been thinking of. I was young then. This next poem is called Lay of Waters, lay as in a song. And you may recall playing that game as a child when you would hold a buttercup under people's chin and see if a little yellow circle appeared under the chin, which meant that person loved you. Try this at home. Another thing I should mention in this, I was once at a convention, probably the AWP, and I was in an elevator with my youngest daughter. And someone in the elevator mentioned the word Christ. And my daughter piped up immediately, "Christ is my daddy's girlfriend." And so this comes from there. Once, Christ, like a girl, held a buttercup under my chin. Love fails. A flower cuts my throat and angels weep from the wound, little angels. Love never fails. I met a woman in Kentucky. There's no going back. If I am in a woodland, she is the woodland. The warm, soft hand extended on the leaves. A rill, a creek, a brook, whatever it is, we've come to it in the catastrophe of little angels. Leaves fall, they catch fire, beautiful fire, and never reach the ground. Love fails and never fails. Christ couldn't bear it, but we must. We must walk on water and through a woodland too. The actual past weeps from future wounds. We have children, and the children live on air. This is called Against Creation. Sovereign of my heart, your temple is deep in the dead branches, moving only when the wind delves so far. Eden is a go. I mean, all's terror now. Sovereign of my heart, I am shouting at nightfall. Bats above me, hummingbirds skittish below the bats, almost like dragonflies. I am shouting into debris, immodest happiness in Eden's humility. A go, a go. Adam's fall invented the future. He tied the bat's wings onto dragonflies. Nature, even as it dies, abhors imagination. What men call extinction, I call home.
My God, beautiful.
Thank you, Donald.
Can I do one more? Or is that
Absolutely,
That's
absolutely.
Please do one more. I was called away. I really want to hear one more.
Do you mind hearing Death again, Stephanie?
3 or 4 more, please.
One more is good. One more is good.
More.
Okay. Do you mind hearing Death again, Stephanie?
Death again?
Yeah. Do you mind hearing that again?
I'll hear. Sure. Read what you want to read.
Okay.
I'm okay
We've
with
been
that.
through this poem before. Okay. This poem, it seems a good place to end. Death. Death calls my dog by the wrong name.
Oh, that one. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yes.
That's okay.
My greatest hit. It's a 45, not a 33 and a third. Death calls my dog by the wrong name. A little man, when I was small, death grew beside me, always taller, but always confused. as I have almost never been. Confusion, like the heart, gets left behind early by a boy, abandoned the very moment futurity with her bare arms comes a waltzing down the fire escapes to take his hand. Death, I said, if your eyes were green, I would eat them. For what are days but the furnace of an eye? If I could strip the sunflower bare to its bare soul, I would rebuild it. Green, inside of green, ringed round by green, there'd be nothing but new flowers anymore. Absolute Christmas. Death, I said, I know someone, a woman who sank her teeth into the moon. For what are space and time but the inventions of sorrowing men? The soul goes faster than light. Eating the moon alive, it leaves space and time behind. The soul is forgiveness because it knows forgiveness. And the knowledge is whirligig. Whirligig taught me to live outwardly. Shoe shop, pizza parlor, surgical appliances, all left behind me with the hooey. My soul is my home, an old star hounded by old starlight. Death, I ask you, whose only story is the end of the story right from the start, how is it I remember everything that never happened and almost nothing that did? Was I ever born? I think of the suicides, all of them thriving, many of them painting beautiful pictures. I think of boys and girls murdered in their first beauty, now with children of their own. And I have a church in my mind, set cruelly ablaze, and then the explosion of happy souls into the greeny, frozen Christmas Eve air. Another good Christmas, a white choir. Beside each other still, my death and I are a magical hermit. Dear mother, I miss you. Dear reader, your eyes are now green, green as they used to be before I was born. Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Before you were born, as we all were, of course. Thank you, Donald. That was amazing.
Good.
Thank
So
you.
good. Thank you. Thank you.
So, and now we have our Somerville resident, Mr. David Blair,
You're not going to interrogate me. Yay!
who lives and works around Boston with his wife Sabrina and his daughter Astrid. And he's the author of a new collection of poetry, Barbarian Seasons, which just came out, you know, almost pretty much the time all this craziness hit us. So unfortunately, it hasn't had a chance to sort of see the light of day, really. But it is an amazing collection. And I'm guessing David is going to read a few poems from that today. And his recent collection of essays, which was highly successful, Walk Around, was a featured book at Harvard Book Store. And, you know, it's an amazing collection of poetry about, you know, bringing all these literary art influences in his walks around Cambridge and Somerville and so on. David's also the author of 3 previous collections of poetry, including Ascension Days, which came out from Del Sol Press, Friends with Dogs from Sheep Meadow, Stanley Moss's Press, and Arsonville, New Issues Poetry and Prose. I welcome you, David, and I'm looking forward to being amused.
Thank you, Mark. Am I on mute?
You're
there.
muted.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you for Mark, you're my publisher, so it's nice. It's like my mother saying nice things about me. I'm just so moved and happy to be reading with Joseph and Donald, who I love so much. I love their work so much, so my cup runneth over. Here's a poem set in the Bronx, where Donald's from, about buying bread in the middle of the night from a bakery and then getting donuts in the morning. For Dion in Belmont, the Napoleons got theatrical. The bakery surrounded me with cakes years after, when I got along with an invisible transistor and getting called, "Hey, boom, boom, Washington, nice hat, walk on." Dull bronze eggs of peppermint striped string dispensers hung on chains level with a modish clock built into the paneling above an egress. I saw snowy egrets by the dump on the edge of Pelham Bay Park, the hunt. And in a dark night, the bread-only bakery was open and windowless, its door frame full of bare bulbs, no fluorescence, and the crust would rivulet into flowery cracks, the gush that swells and dissolves with traces of peppery dust, fresh. In the morning, the girls had nail extensions with glue-on rhinestones on them like spaceships. This poem set in Wildwood, New Jersey, and it kind of makes use of the Appalachian folk song, Wildwood Flower. All thoughts get dictated to us once we go and neglect pale wildwood flowers all year in our heads, meaning forget about it. Just do your job, be your entire life, alcools and twang, a blues hangover, a pageant that lasts us all through winter, Surfside, a strong man with a bald head who flexes his muscles and practices his profile, with a demon child there scattering sandpiper flocks. And the old circus emanates and smiles over the late light at a lady with a two-piece suit and deep C-section bite, sweet-pitted thighs like a flute for Rubens, and water rushes in the wet sand trenches dug for kid finger water to start and then get overwhelmed, and families wheel the wheelchair grannies up the ramps or down the slats to the hard sand, and the water rolls back up where a teenager splinted up with crutches has buried feet and pretzel legs, finding the solve of souls, as somebody once said of another seaside lords. Everything gets ill. Old health and sickness, old ocean wing tumbled from the arcade roof to the convention hall across the boardwalk, caught in a red glow of lights on a ride and marsh sunset and pizza neon, foreign mid raven black hair, waitress, crooked teeth in a pretty mouth, the benches screened in, and gull shat railings where people eat steak bombs while we look around at who will end up next to go away from all this sad joy that also covers carapaces right to the hinges, horns, and the complex eyes of stranded horseshoes with slipper shells, with fat chance washing back. I'm making a necklace here. Big breath poem. This is a poem about Mount Auburn Cemetery and walking to the grave of Robert Creeley, who's such an important person to my friend Joseph, and also to Donald, who's written so beautifully about him as a teacher and as a friend. By the grave of Robert Creeley. Look, here comes everybody poking along up and down by Indian summer accident that makes the day trip go along forever. Then we have a map and might as well find Creeley up one street named Mound Avenue. Weird. What next? Boneyard Boulevard. And then one that wraps over, and then beneath an embankment with chipmunk rhododendrons and an intersection dominated by the scaliest locust tree bark with the horniest branches ever. Fine on a fall day, not in the dark or fog though, gradually seeping in the disused or sloughed off coils of New England names around Gothic fencing, and many in Ezekiel and Ezra in Mount Auburn, and finally Creeley's grave, mossed up 12 years and already the oldest thing, with lines I won't even quote so good on its backside, with the prospect of the day he meant us to see, the family nearby, from the age of sea captains and starch, strangers to him in the woodlot wilderness, best term for every woods between roads, part of initiating strangeness, how to be a person making mistakes, that is the question, with ground hairy beechnut shells and sepal-strewn branches down odd segments. Sabrina decides to stretch out on her side and leaves with head up on crooked arm. What is she doing down there? Has the smithy poet's capacity to charm outlived his body? Astrid pranks up leaves in a circle of girl feet and alternates her dial between cheek and spook, the ground charged with goat and bad chemicals from grass at our heads and light hearts. And I'll read 2 more short poems.
Fantastic, David.
This one, it's a beach my dear friend David Revell told us about, at the ends of Little Compton. I think it's a poem actually, about if anybody's ever known anybody who's had a stroke and they lose language, the ability to speak language, and also gone through chemotherapy, things like that. At the ends of Little Compton, stones and zit craters from stones sunken with bicarbonate of ocean and sand, like a vast pantomime and a vast counter sestina, all sounding variants for sure. Looking at the vacation trailers up on the rocks, opposite the end of the islands that look brown, looking at an Irish flag and an American flag above its scree, I get the bold idea for a novel about a ghost mother in the first person in speech therapy. She is just walking from dimension to dimension, going through walls, heading upstairs. The closeness to one child recedes into the distance of another who held her column of stardust. We have to hear our father watch cable news in the kitchen in one of those things, eating cereal on structures with split shingle roofs by the sea. She hangs on to weather vanes shaped like whales. She can now enunciate the words, well, he's still a pain in my ass. Then part of a broken clamshell, the hinge, seems to contain a room or a seat for another clamshell. Last poem I'll read, this one from towards the beginning. There's a lot of, all of a sudden there's all these rabbits around Somerville and Cambridge, and they weren't here for years. Now they are, and I don't know if people aren't letting their cats out or what. This kind of a poem, one of the sub-themes of this book is kind of sketching and cartooning. Let's not think this is too much of a city. Twice this week, driving just before dusk home to dinner, I saw rabbits in the snow. Brown coats flecked with white, one booking from behind a snowbank, the other by a pile of snow, contemplating the driveway. These fast mugs always keep looking for food, and later, around 10 every night, I go for a walk, happy to think of rabbits. I take what I have written so far over to my daughter. I cut it out as a rectangle. I center it on a piece of paper. I make a quick sketch of a sort of dense carpet pattern of interlocked rabbits. I want her to wallpaper around this poem with all these rabbits. Maybe they can be blue and green. Xerox one. Practice some to get them right. She looks at me and says, "No way, man. I will fill the whole world with my kind of conies. Some of them sharp-toothed, long-clawed March hares." Oh, thank you for, it's so good to read for so many friends, you know? Like, it's like,
Thank you, David. That was amazing. I think I have the title for your next collection of poetry.
oh, yeah.
All These Rabbits. I think it's
All
really
these rabbits. Oh, maybe yeah, if I get to select it, I guess we do it selected.
So I don't think we touched with Donald on his influences either. So both of you, you know, back and forth, you know, shoot each other down, help each other out, whatever you feel. What are your influences?
You want me to start, David?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I have to start with the Book of Common Prayer. The most beautiful thing in my part of the Bronx was our church. And the most beautiful language I heard on any given day would be out of the Book of Common Prayer. So that would be the first. Next would be William Blake, that I bought on the Grand Concourse back in 1969, when there used to be bookstores on the Grand Concourse. And after that, a beloved friend from college days, Norman Finkelstein, who first gave me ears to hear things I didn't know about. And then two others I have to mention, Denise Levertov and the scolding letters she would send to me on a regular basis, and the radiant, sweet mentor and friend, John Ashbery.
Beautiful.
David?
It's funny, I got my first Blake book at on Decatur Avenue at a little used bookstore right off of Fordham Road. And it was this great, like, little penguin one with a crazy, it was like an English penguin one, but it had really great cover art. And I read it till it kind of completely fell apart. You know, my main influences would be friendship, actually. My friendship with poets. And when you're friends with poets, you read things and you talk about the poets that you're reading and you get to hear them. And I'm lucky to have so many poet friends around in Boston and also, you know, around the country, where you've been even seeing this lately with, you know, so there's a lot of kind of back and forth. And then poets who have jobs and write have been really important to me, like Whitman, not Whitman so much, but Whitman walking around, but like Williams and O'Hara and Stevens, kind of like writing on the fly, writing on the run as a way of having a sense of life. Have been the biggest influence on me, I think. And then other, you know, like my friendships with like David Revell and Joseph. I mean, I can point to things like, you know, I started writing sequences because Joseph would send me his sequences and we'd read his sequences, and, you know, listen to these poems develop so beautifully. You would make me, I was like, oh, maybe I want to write a sequence. You know, so there's a lot of that, you know, that sort of thing that's going around, but a lot of it's just kind of back and forth in friendship.
Fantastic.
Beautiful.
That's the only good thing about poetry, actually, is friendship. You know, the rest of it's, who cares? Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
But shall we get into the politics of poetry in America today? I don't think. not tonight. Not tonight. Larissa.
They're always in it or always out of it.
Thank you so much, Donald, Joseph, David. Fantastic readings. We definitely would love to have you back when we're a real TV show somewhere in the future, maybe. But as we are here, wishing everyone's family, you know, the greatest of peace and solace, and taking a moment for all those people who are in very desperate situations right now. So I think it's wonderful that we can celebrate the word in poetry, and I think it's important that we take a time also to think about everyone who's going through all these hard times at the moment. Larissa, back to you. I think we start the open mics things now.
Thank you so much, Mark, and thank you so much, Joseph and Donald and David. That was wonderful. I need a moment just to savor what I've just heard, and let us Zoom applaud again, please, the wonderful reading we heard, and I'm so grateful we have recorded it so that people can hear it again and again and again. Please give it up for
Yes.
David, that was wonderful. We have a very lovely open mic section coming up, and we have 3 readers on our open mic tonight. And I'd like to introduce the first. Noah Burden, are you in the house?
Yes, I am.
Hello, Noah. How are you?
I'm doing well. That
How
was
are
a
you?
reading. That was really wonderful.
So,
I never thought I would be able to see Joseph Lease, Donald Revell, and David Blair in my living room. It's pretty cool.
it banishes the pandemic for a little while. It really does. These men have banished the pandemic for us today. Thank you, guys. So anyway, you're going to grace us with a poem and then tell us about your influences in any order you'd prefer. Influences or poem first, whichever you prefer.
Oh, cool. So influences, just as David so rightly put it, that in many ways poetry is really good for friendships. My friendships and mentorships with both David Blair and David Revell are like some really big influences for me, both in just like the writing of it and just experiencing walking around in the world with them. So, and then I guess Joseph Saravallo, Mary Ruffel, George Oppen, and Jean Follain would be like some big influences who I turn to often. I don't know if what I'm going to read, you'll hear anything of those people in it, but so I recently had my second book come out with Vegetarian Alcoholic Press, and it's called Clothesline Saga, after another influence, Bob Dylan, a song by him. But I'm going to read one poem from there. And it is called This Kills Me. You get frustrated watching the news a lot recently, and you just feel like, oh, this is doing some really terrible things to me. But yeah. I left my moped in the Emperor's garden, orange ribbed over the bluish patio. No weeds, no weeds, the Emperor yelled, his window sliding up, smattering down. The palms lean against the stucco like the ladders of the crushes in all the Friday night sitcoms, whining, no weeds, at the slight odor of cartoons on the flower bed. I left my jars of snow on the driveway and dropped my shoes on the Porsche. The freshly paved cul-de-sac socked my feet coalish. Impression all around, the waste management driver announces now through his bullhorn. This kills me. Whether to stay in on my day off or go out to some place and stay in there. On the stereo just now, the band leader tells me I can battering ram my life. The Emperor feels his mahogany desk shake under the shadow of his gold feathers. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Noah. Please come back again.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Next up, Lit BALM is pleased to present Stephanie Burt. Stephanie, would you give us a poem?
I would, and I will unmute myself. Am I audible?
And also, and tell us your influences either before or after.
I mean, is Don still here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, you're an influence. You're an influence. I don't know. Dunn, Whitman, Terrence Hayes, Bishop, Moore, the usual. Paul Muldoon, Jenny Bornholt. Do we know Jenny Bornholt? She's from New Zealand. She's really fun. She's really understated. I'm gonna read, I guess, 2 short poems from my new book, which is called After Callimachus, and they're all adaptations, sometimes very free adaptations of the ancient Greek poet Callimachus. Fragment 388. Berenice, rightful governor who looks out for our town, we will stay at your side and by your side and on your side, till the famous hot ingots the size and weight of a steer, which the Phocians dumped in their harbor to impede a hostile navy, reappear floating at high tide, till every attendant truly wants to attend the fancy dress ball, till Pallas Athena tells us all she's pregnant, and Artemis ends up as some dude's bride. And should I do another one?
One poem. We read one poem. But
okay,
why don't you sneak in another short?
No, we read one poem.
No,
Okay.
one more.
One per.
One short
Somebody's
one,
waiting to go.
Stephanie.
Somebody's
Go
waiting to
ahead.
go. What?
Come on, Stephanie.
No, come on, give us one short one.
Okay, sure. Does anyone here know who Laura Jane Grace is? Noah? No? You don't know? Okay. Then I'm going to read another one. Epigram 5. You can guess what the real subject of this poem is, but it's a fairly straight up translation. I was surprised at how appropriate it was. So yeah, after Callimachus, Epigram 5. Timon, you were part of an institution famous for passing judgment on everyone and finding almost all not good enough. Now that you're dead, is being dead a solution? Certainly not. So many people are dead, there are more under the earth than under the sun. So many I can't reject them all. It's tough.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Stephanie. Wonderful. Splendid. Thank you so much. All right. Last but certainly not least, we have in the house Austin. Austin Alexis.
Hi.
Hi, Austin. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Poem and influences, please.
Okay, I'll read the poem first. This is a very new poem. Dementia Intrigue. It grew up about her like moss overtaking stones around a pond, forgetfulness, increasing erasure of events, an odd absent-mindedness she experienced as fascinating until she found the hole in her consciousness frightening. When her son mentioned the rose bush that once graced her backyard center, her mind and her face went blank until she pretended to remember. She wondered if he knew she couldn't retrieve the sense of smell. Taste was a something she failed to locate anywhere in her mouth's mysterious flesh. When her daughter swung by on Memorial Day, and 15 minutes after letting her in, she didn't recall her daughter entering the house. Her daughter gave her a look that murmured compassion, but bellowed alarm. It grew up around her, like cattails overwhelming a ditch, until her passageways, her escapes felt cluttered, even clogged, until she didn't recognize noon. She thought 12 p.m. was midnight, and maybe for her it was.
Thank you so much, Austin.
Thank
So
you.
tell us about your influences.
Well, I think philosophically, Emily Dickinson and Robert Frost, and then technique-wise, Sylvia Plath, and maybe Anne Sexton for getting narrative into poetry.
Thank you so much, Austin.
Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have beaten back the pandemic once again. That's the end of our show today. Please come next week when Lit BALM is very pleased to feature Helene Cardona and Christina Anderson Bichère. That will be a wonderful show. And then on the 16th, we have a splendid panel about the New Orleans Poetry Festival with Megan Burns and Bill Lavender having discussion and reading. And so we'll be visiting New Orleans for that thing. Please join us again. Thank you for joining us today. And I will leave you with a poem, Vow. We will love like dogwood, kiss like cranes, die like moths, I promise. Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.